you spot the difference between this cart and this cart? This is a standard format Genesis cartridge, which has been in use since the launch of the Sega Genesis. And this is a cart made by Electronic Arts. I mentioned this in my Starflight video. If you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out. Anyways, looking at this cart, it's larger than the standard Genesis cartridge. It's taller, it has a larger label, and this yellow tab in there. Now, when I first saw this, it was on this game, NHL Hockey, and I thought it was because it was a sports game. But then other cartridges started to show this design, like Jungle Strike had this one, Road Rash 2, and Starflight, among many others. And yellow tab.
In my attempt to remove the yellow tab off the cartridge, I couldn't. At the risk of breaking it, I decided just to leave it in place.
Now, at the time, I rented this from my local Blockbuster video back in the early 90s, and I wasn't able to do a comparison. I just didn't think of it at the time, but now that I have these games here, I can do the comparison between this cartridge and this cartridge. Now, it was because of my previous video, Starflight, that I was wondering where this tab came from, so I decided to look it up. And it turns out that it's an EA thing where it has to do with a special licensing agreement and reverse engineering.
In 1988, Electronic Arts wanted to get a piece of the huge cartridge-based home console market and started to talk to Nintendo about getting their games to their consoles. At the time, Nintendo had the biggest market share, but Trip Hawkins was put off by Nintendo's restrictive licensing for third-party developers. Nintendo's policy for third-party developers was as follows: buy an expensive dev kit from Nintendo, pay high royalty fees for each game sold, Nintendo controls the production of the games, and Nintendo approves what games makes it to stores. This was a hard pill to swallow for EA. They were moving tons of games in the PC market and didn't want to share their profits with Nintendo. When EA approached Sega regarding the publication of its games on the Genesis, the executives anticipated a positive response to their proposal. However, Sega of America President Michael Katz had alternative intentions. Rather than embracing EA's proposal, Sega sought to emulate Nintendo's rigorous licensing agreement system, limiting negotiation opportunities with third-party publishers. After nearly a year of discussions, a Sega executive challenged Bing Gordon of EA, suggesting that if they sought a different deal, they would have to reverse engineer the system. Accepting the challenge, EA proceeded with the guidance of its legal counsel, authorizing 2 skilled engineers to undertake a clean room reverse engineering project on the Genesis. Unknown to Sega, EA's hardware group developed several reverse-engineered development systems and accelerated the production of the Genesis games. Sega faced a dilemma. If EA pursued its licensing program, Sega would lose a substantial portion of its profits. EA could offer more attractive returns and lower manufacturing costs to the other publishers than Sega was willing to offer. In return for joining Sega's licensing program, EA secured the liberty to manufacture its own Genesis cartridges, create as many games as desired, and enjoy more favorable royalty rates.
And thus the origin of the yellow tab on the Sega Genesis cartridges. I went through my childhood and most of my adult life wondering what that yellow tab was for, and now I know. Now, while I was researching Starflight, my previous video, I noticed a small label on the bottom of the case here that's mentioned 8 meg, and I didn't know what that was for. What does it do with these small labels? And those one-liners on the game boxes that showcase the size of the cart. How much data was that in current data storage terminology? Why were they on some games, not on others? That's a story for another time. Well, that's it for this video. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more retro game goodness. Thanks for watching.